All right, many thanks for staying with us on your ultimate news and current affairs program on television, TMI. I will quickly go into our takeaway point. The 2023 general election matters are rising. We are privileged to have in the studio Reverend Olu Martin. He's a civil activist. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Okay. And also joining us via phone call is Honorable Oses Iromosele, a politician. Honorable Oses, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Okay. Fine. Thank you. Good to have you on the show. So let's start with Reverend Olu Martins. In your opinion, what shape do you think the 2023 elections will take, in your opinion?
Thank you very much. Let me first of all use the opportunity to wish one of the greatest Africans alive a very happy birthday. I'm talking about no other person than the almost larger than life Sir Chief Dr. Gabriel Sawaro. Igbenedion, who has become not just the Honorable Romanian Ambassador to Edo and Delta, perhaps Honorable Romanian Ambassador of Edo to the world.
Certainly.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I'm not Benin, but the Benin is Domosa, Watosa. And having said that, you know, democracy all over the world is contentious. Power is no walk in the park, especially within the Nigerian context where the winner gets it all. So as they build up to the 2023 general election escalates, we expect that there will be engagement at all levels.
Okay.
We expect that the engagement will be issue-based. But again, this is Nigeria, where we have our own peculiarities. It is in Nigeria that we have fiscal federalism. You know, we have our own definitions for everything. Yes, it is in this country that, you know, we must double on everything. You know, you don't do something now in Nigeria. You do something now. There's got to be some verbosity. So it's not also expected that there will be some offshoots, some discussions that may not percolate or may not resonate with intellectualism. But we expect that in the months coming, by the end of this year, by the end of this month, the ban on open campaigns will be lifted, and we'll see rallies. So there'll be a lot of excitement. The social media will be awash. People will pitch then. There will be decamping, and if you like, recamping. There will be alignments and realignments. So the next few months till February, I'm sure that the media, being the fortune of the earth, would also be busy doing catch-up, because for the first time in Nigeria's political history, at least since 1979, we have a 3-horse race. Usually we have had a 2-horse race.
Certainly, we have a third force.
Yes,
now.
but we have a third force. And we do not have a third force that you can push by the corner. We have a third force that appears to be trudging on very powerfully and giving the traditional political parties of PDP and
cause
APC,
of concern.
Yes, a cause for concern. And perhaps, if you like to put it that way, giving them a run, maybe not for their money in the sense that money coming from that source, but for their money because of the level of, you know, empathy, the level of entropy, support that the man, you know, is getting. So for the first time, we are going to be doing analysis on, you know, I think it's going to be interesting.
That means we should be expecting a whole lot.
Oh,
as the intrigue to the 2023 election.
Fireworks,
okay.
You know, brickbat throwing, character assassination, which is typical of the of politics all over the world.
Sure.
You know, liars and you know, half-truth. There will be information. There will be disinformation. There will be information.
Okay.
There will be contenders and, you know, pretenders. So it's going to be really interesting.
Okay.
The days coming.
Let's quickly get to Honorable Oses Iromosele. Some Nigerians are of the opinion that due to the many happenings in the nation, the elections may not hold come 2023. What's your take on that, Honorable Oses?
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay. This is how politics have always been, you know, at its content, you know, tensions here and there. But I'm here to tell you, nothing of sort will happen. Election is going to hold at the date that have been given by the INEC, you know. And if you know what is up, if you see what is happening today, a lot of, all the political parties, they are coming out with their strategy. They are very planning for their campaigns and all that. But one thing I will tell you this time is Nigeria will not be fooled again, So, by what is happening today, Nigeria has already to, choose who their leaders are at this time. And by the grace of God, that is ongoing, When you go to different local governments, you go to different wards, you go to different states, you hear them talking about the hardship presently in Nigeria, and the suffering and all. And I heard you guys mention it third force just now. I know that has to do with the Labour Party, and based on the crowd everywhere in different quarters, that's why such tensions are coming up, And I will say that answering your question, the election will hold. Thank you.
Okay, let's quickly come back to the studio now. Reverend Martins, we've been plagued with insecurities over time. And each time we feel we are getting soccer, it seems we are going back to square one again. So how do we reverse this issue of insecurity plaguing us as a nation?
Well, fortunately, unfortunately, one of the dramatist personnel, one of the characters within the Nigerian body politic who had given us a unique perspective to security and insecurity is the late General Sani Abacha, where he said, and I quote, in part, that if insecurity continues for more than 3 months, then the likelihood that the powers that be, the government is culpable is very high. And I seem to agree with him, because the people who are perpetuating insecurity are not ghosts. They live amongst us. And we have had people who have gone to negotiate with them, discuss with them. What it means is that they also have a geographic location. We have purchased, at the last count, 5 Tucano jets.
Super Tucano jets.
At in millions of dollars. If you translate that to Naira, you know how much we have spent. Year after year, budget on security has been the highest, higher than health, higher than sometimes in 5 ministries, put together. And yet we still hear issues of military men talking about substandard weapons, talking about Kalashnikov guns that cannot shoot. So if you go out there to confront a bandit, or if you like a terrorist, with an Uzi, and then the guy on the other side or you are using a handheld grenade, and the guy is using an RPG, you know that you are outmatched. So I think it's about political will. If government wants to end insecurity in Nigeria, it can end insecurity. As at last week, Nigeria had infamously earned for itself the second most terrorized nation in the world. And for a nation that is not clearly at war, that is a bad reputation, so to speak. So I think that the buck essentially is on the table, of government. If government wants to end insecurity, government can end security even as we speak. Unfortunately, those who are touted some kind of ethnic agenda are also suffering from it, because it even looks like those who are perpetuating this heinous crime have found an epicenter in the northeast and northwest. So those who are shouting that there's an agenda, there's some Fulani agenda, whatever agenda, are the ones who are suffering the most. The chicken is coming home to roost. So if we must curb insecurity, government must demonstrate overtly that it is determined to do so. And in doing so, it cannot pay lip service to it. We have had people who have been paraded, and after parade, that's all that we heard. We have had the Attorney General and Minister for Justice say that they have the list of sponsors of terror. And all that we have had is the press conference. If you have the list of sponsors of terror, just like the Edo State government did a few days ago, where it published the list of potential land grabbers, 50 of them, and has invited them for interrogation, at least through the police. That's what a government, should do. So I do not think that government is serious with insecurity. Because if government is serious with insecurity, government will ensure that it fights insecurity, neck to neck. Because the police, the federal police, It's a federal military. Most of our security agencies are federal. The federal government has not allowed the fostering and the festering of, state police or community police. So if federal government indeed wants to curb insecurity, it knows where the bandits are, it knows where the terrorists are, it knows where the herdsmen and cattle rustlers are. So if he wants to, if people like Sheikh Gumi can approach them and negotiate with them, it means that they have a location, it means that they are visible, it means that they can be tracked. And then with modern day technology of drone and night visions, what are we talking about? So I don't think that government is determined to nip it in the bud. If they are, Nigerian government and the Nigerian army has the capacity. They have been to peacekeeping in other nations and they have come out of time. So they have the capacity and the wherewithal to confront, if you like to put it that way, ragtag army, otherwise called terrorists or bandits.
Okay, our Honorable says, from Reverend Olumatin's submission, do you think if the names of sponsors are being released publicly, this will go a long way to curb insecurity we are being faced currently? Do you agree with that?
Yes, he spoke excellently well. I took time to listen to every statement he made. We'll say God bless him. And I want to say to you, some days ago, an interview was granted to one northern leader. I don't want to mention his name. I think he's everywhere on the social media. You had him address the Boko Haram as an element. So when he was to, address the bandits, he called them people fighting for their rights. That's what he said. He said they are fighting for religion, what they believe in. And this was aired in the major TV station in Nigeria. The whole world watched him. And these are the same people going about, campaigning for APC. Until those elements are out of Aso Rock, Nigeria will not be peaceful, because they have an agenda. They are fighting for a cause, And that's why I'm being pained. It pains me when I see young Nigeria support this set of people. You cannot live Benin where you are presently, going to Abuja, you want to go through roads. When you want to do that, your family have to go into fasting and prayer, Ordinarily, it wasn't like this before. It wasn't like this. I remember those days we were scared to use local flights. We were like, okay, it's not safe, the road is safer. You dare not try it now, If you could get from Benin to Rotterdam, you are not being kidnapped, you are praising God. And some leaders came out on the TV telling Nigerians that these people are fighting for their rights. It's so bandits and these kidnappers, they are trying to, make living for themselves and all. And a northern governor said that some time ago too, still campaigning for these APC people, saying that these kidnappers is a means of livelihood, It's terrible. It's terrible, and by the grace of God, I know in 2023 this whole thing will be put to an end.
Okay.
In Nigeria, we are ready to take that decision. Thank you.
All right, let's come back to Reverend Martins. Does any of the presidential candidates possess what it takes to take us out of this current economic hardship we have been faced?
I hope so. Yes, I hope that all of them have what it takes. Because the only way I can judge a man is to judge him by his past. Okay. It was... so
looking at the past records.
Yes, F.R.A. Williams' son, when he was 75, they asked him what the next 10 years was going to be. And he said he cannot project in the next 10 years except by his past antecedent. The past 10 years will tell you what the next 10 years is going to be. So looking at the past record, if you like to put it that way, because we have come down to 3 major people. Of course, there are about 17 of them, but to 3 major people. Ideally, if the campaigns of the media managers and the supporters of any of the 3 people is anything to go by, they have touted their CV as people who have the competency and capacity to so do. We have His Excellency Atiku Abubakar, who was Vice President of Nigeria and who was the chairman of the economic team, if you like, a super vice president. Because at the time he became vice president, President Olusegun Obasanjo was a greenhorn in politics. Yes, he was an expert in military tactics, but a greenhorn in politics. So he seeded the 19, at least governors of the PDP at that time and the management of the economic team, for which all the governors were part of. he ceded a major part of Nigeria's economic system to his vice president.
Atiku Abubakar.
And there have been knocks and poo-poos, and if you like, some praises in the management of that process. Some people have accused Vice President, as it then was, Atiku Abubakar, of ceding many of our national assets to his friends, and that many of them today have not seen the light, of the day. But give it to Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. He's been in the trenches. The first time he attempted to contest for president of Nigeria was in 1992 with Mko Abiola. I'm not even sure if I was born at that time. That's to tell you how long it has been.
But I'm sure that's on a lighter note.
Yeah, of course, certainly. I'm almost 50 now, so
sure.
Yeah, so and he's been contested. So give it to him. He understands Nigeria's political topography like the back of his hand. He is perhaps the most experienced among all the three. If long service award or long participation in politics is anything to go by, of course we have those who are batified. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed and his campaigners have touted what he did in Lagos and the fact that he has continued to produce leaders. Some of us have argued that we haven't seen many of the people that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has produced. We haven't considered them as quintessential. Because if you produce people and then we can't find many of them who you say, look, this guy is quintessential in the ilk of Awolowo, then you will begin to ask the kind of people that he produced. But again, give it to Bola Ahmed, Tinubu, a fantastic, intelligent political tactician who built the, at that time, the Action Congress. Even, in fact, I think it was Alliance for Democracy, built it to Action Congress. And we have APC today from one Lagos state. He was able to rally the West, came to Edo, did what he could do, and then pushed the bar until, for the first time, Yorubas are part of mainstream politics, because the Yorubas have been known to be part of opposition. So give it to him. He understands politics, and he has been a kingmaker. Whether a kingmaker will transmogrify to the king himself is a different problem entirely. Okay. Because philosophically, we have known many kingmakers who have not been able to transmogrify to kings themselves, because it's a different thing campaigning for somebody, projecting somebody, sponsoring somebody, and then another thing entirely to be the person that you are there. Some people are good at marketing. They are not good at, some people are good at marketing somebody else. They are not good themselves being the forefront of it. Of course, then we have, Peter Obi, whose essential CV is his stint in private, in the organized private sector as chairman of this bank, as chairman of this organization, and then in the 8 years where he led the people of Anambra State in an austere manner. Perhaps we see for the first time a governor who leaves position and doesn't appropriate for himself any kind of retirement benefits. All right. So amongst the three of them, he perhaps seems to have the leanest political portfolio, but his seeming, I call it seeming because it was Shakespeare that said we can't tell what is in a man's eye by his facial expression. His seeming sincerity, and then perhaps his very intimidating academic CV appears to be going for him. It looks like Nigerians, especially the youth, want something different from what has always been. What Peter Obi will make of the mass support he is getting, especially from the youth, most of whom were part of the NSAS, is left for his managers, because right now the momentum seems to be on his side. Do not forget that a few days ago, Atedo Peterson, who led the ANAP, came up with polls where it said that Peter Obi was ahead of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar.
One of the newspapers.
Yes, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar and Tinubu. Of course, people have cried foul and they have called that poll several names, not forgetting that the polls didn't start today. The first time that poll the first time they conducted that poll was in 2007. And most of the projections of the Atedo Peter side and NAP have been correct in most of the instances. Okay. Of course, you don't expect people who consider Nigeria as a part of their estate will now want, quote and unquote, a new entrant, a new kid, to be seen as leading the pack. So that poll is disputed. But the weeks to go, as campaigns bust open.
In 10 days' time?
Yes, in 10 days' time, some we will be able to approve or disprove, the polls, because some people will gain momentum, some people will become weakened. Do not forget that before now, when the discussion between Peter Obi and Alhaji Rabiu Kwankwaso was going on, there was a lot of talk about Alhaji Rabiu Kwankwaso. But as it is now,
about the merger.
Yes, it appears since that merger didn't work and Peter Obi went for somebody else, it looks as if the direction toward the energy that was going towards Engineer Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, fine gentleman, appears to have dropped. But we are still at the level of mosquito campaigns. By the time the roof is blown open, there's full-blown campaign, some people will gain momentum, and of course some people also lose momentum.
Okay, Reverend Martins, we'll get back to you. Honorable says, in the past, some people are of the opinion that campaigns are actually done based on the results achieved by the present administration. For instance, people who campaign for presidential offices use the office in power or those in power to campaign. But it's totally different for the APC. As we speak now, the APC, they're not really capitalizing on the achievement of the Muhammadu Buhari-led administration. What do you think?
Okay, I will answer your question generally. If you see, APC have nothing to tell Nigeria. They have failed woefully. And they actually don't have anything to come tell us, because Nigeria, they are wise now, they are wiser. If you look what was happening, the other speaker talked about Atiku trying to send some praises about him and all of that, and even the Jagaban, the Tinubu, it's beyond a political party now. If Peter Obi was in another party outside Labour Party, this same support that he's having today would have still gone that direction. Why? Because Nigeria needs somebody who understands the system. Nigeria needs somebody who knows how to fix, who knows what to do at the right time, that knows how to do what he needs to do. And that's the person of Peter Obi. If you watch what is happening today in Nigeria, you see literally every community, even in the north, because most times I'm always in the north, everyone is talking about Peter Obi. The reason is this, because he's the only one who comes out to tell Nigeria the problems of Nigeria and how he is going to fix it. Every other, like the APC guy will come up and say this is his turn. I don't know what is his turn. Nigeria is not his proxy, And he said he developed Lagos. That was the former capital territory of Nigeria. If you go to Lagos, other governors have done a lot, not just him. The same way, a lot of governors have worked in those states, If you go to different cities, a lot of governors have worked. No one could actually come out to say he has done everything in a particular state. For instance, Abuja, it's just that somebody coming out to say, Obasanjo changed the whole of Abuja. It's not possible. He did his part, and even as I speak to you, go to Abuja today, a lot of roads are still being tied. A lot of buildings are still being constructed. So one man cannot come out and start taking the glory, That of Atiku. Atiku says, since I was in nursery school, Atiku has been contesting for president. He wants to become the president. When he's done, if he didn't favor him in APC today, next day he goes to PDP. If he didn't favor in PDP, he looks for that party to go. If he didn't favor him, he comes back here, $20 all around. Those are not the kind of leaders we need in Nigeria.
Okay.
As I speak to you now, hold on, sir, please. As I speak to you now, I have kids as well who are coming up. I have the role to play for them to remain in Nigeria, because I don't intend taking them out of the country, I don't intend doing that. If we didn't get it right in 2023, my brother, it will be a different ballgame in Nigeria.
Okay. Talking about getting it right, Reverend Martins, do you think money politics will, in a way, affect the choices of the electorate?
Well, I'm hoping that I understand that what you mean by money politics is an attempt for the dramatist personnel, the politicians themselves, to influence how the electorate votes. Because all over the world, politics the game of or the art of politics is not cheap. There are legitimate financial exposures that any political candidate must be ready for. You want to conduct a rally, a campaign in any state, there are legitimate claims. There's logistics, there's security, there's media, and all kinds of...
But won't that transcend into vote buying?
No, that's what I can say all over the world. If you look at even in America, we have known American presidents to spend as much as $250 million in a campaign. So it's expensive. There's poster, there are banners, there are consultancies, there are media experts, all kinds of ancillary expenses that come with the terrain naturally. But that money will play how people would vote there's no gainsaying about it. There's what we call per head per capita. If you have followed our political trajectory very well, because in every election I like to study crowd. There's the science of crowd mobilization. And you will find out, if you do your Venn diagram, that the people who attend the political rallies of Mr. A are almost the same faces that attend the political rallies of Mr. B. So when somebody says, oh, look at crowd in Kano, and that is for one political party, the next week another political party does a rally, they also have equal crowd. But check it very well, you will find out that almost half of the crowd that went to the rally of Mr. A are also in the rally of Mr. B, and perhaps Mr. C, because there are people who earn their living by being in charge of a community, who earn their living by being in control of certain blocks. So you give them money, I give you individuals 2,000 per head, 3,000 per head. So money, of course, is going to play a huge role. As we speak now, money is already playing a huge role in who emerges, even at different political parties. We have seen people who say, look, I am the candidate of XYZ from XYZ constituency. Somebody else says, no, I am the candidate. And different people are laying claim to it. People have accused themselves of saying, oh, they gave this one money, they gave this one money. And then we have seen instances of people, because one of the challenges that we're having in this new electoral act is the issue of placeholders. It wasn't there before. That's true. Now we have people who are supposed to have been there temporarily. And many of them, when push came to shove, many of them don't want to leave. Take, for instance, the Labour Party didn't have a lot of people contesting for elections on the platform of Labour Party. But so that they can fill those spaces, they had a lot of placeholders. Some of the placeholders by themselves, without the knowledge of the political party, if you like, in quote, sold that place to somebody else. So the Labour Party is having a whole lot of problems, especially in one of their constituencies, Orion Umode, where some guy says, look, I'm the one that's replaced the legitimate holder. The party is saying the guy who was placeholder and the party at the national didn't inform us, so he sold, quote unquote, that ticket without our information. It's our responsibility to replace whoever it is, as placeholder. Somebody else is laying claim, to that ticket. So, and you not expect that kind of thing would happen within a fresh Labour Party that is coming to, reckoning. So we hope that in a few days that matter, will be settled. But that's what money, politics does, especially in Nigeria where hunger has been weaponized. Especially in Nigeria where our values come to nothing. Because it's not just about hunger. You go to Niger Republic, you go to Togo, you go to Ghana, their per capita income is worse than our own. Their GDP is worse than their own. Their quality of living is worse than their own. Yet you will not see them break traffic lights. You will not see them behaving the way they are behaving. Because for us, the end justifies the means. The Igbo people say, ego budike, money, is power. And then because we have thrown caution to the wind, nobody cares how you made the money, not even from the churches. So you can understand that there's no doubt that in the months and weeks coming, money will play a role. But of course, Bible says a time came where money failed. In this, we saw it in Edo State 2 years ago, when His Excellency was seeking for a revalidation of his mandate. Money failed in Edo State. So we're hoping that by 2023 elections, because we have suffered enough, that money will also fail and people will go there to vote their conscience, and hopefully, because of the innovations that INEC is doing, the votes of the Nigerian people will count.
All right, talking about INEC, as we begin to wrap up now, Honorable says, INEC actually said no form of campaign should be carried out till the official date for the campaign. But we've seen the Labour Party carried out a rally in several states and part of the country, and that has sparked a lot of reactions in some quarter. What do you think? The Labour Party, are they actually bridging the INEC's directive?
Thank you so much for that question. I want to quickly correct you. Not just Labour Party. In Delta State some days ago, you saw 1 million march for Atiku. In Lagos, you saw 1 million march for a candidate. It's all the parties, they are all involved. That's not campaign. Campaign has not started. What you see, they are demonstrating their love for their candidates. You see what is happening in all of the country. What actually caused that? It was a particular leader in the APC who said that the Labour Party, they are just in the room making noise in the internet. That's why you saw individuals, they came out from different states, letting them know that they are not inside the room making noise. They were just going out demonstrating.
Honorable says we actually are running out of time now. Okay. Yeah.
And you know that Peter Obi has nothing to do with that. Those are the lovers of Peter Obi.
Okay.
They came out from different streets, different states, shouting and letting those individuals know that they are not just in the internet. Those are the million march you have seen all around the
All right. Thank you so much. I'm afraid I'm going to stop you at this point. We actually don't have time again. Reverend Martins, thank you very much for being back. We'll still have you again so that we can have ample time to dissect this discussion.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Honorable Says, for taking time to be part of the show this morning. Okay, we'll take a short pause now. Another segment on TMI